Hey, what's up? It's your boy Rawk. I have some terrifying news. Contrary to what I've lived my entire life believing, copies of Mario vs. Donkey Kong 2 don't just appear in your collection one day. I mean, think about it. Do you remember how you ended up with this thing?
Where the f*** did you come from?
Yeah, that's what I thought. But turns out, this actually came from somewhere. And that somewhere is a synonym for fornication. What do you do when you want more video games? You rethink your priorities. Or you can make your way over to a game shop where you can browse a selection of loads of different games from loads of different consoles and be mystified by the endless possibilities of how you'll waste your money today. With games being as big as they are nowadays, you can walk into a fair number of general supermarkets and nab yourself some of the most recent game releases. There have been a couple of times where I've walked into Asda and bought a game from there, or walked into Tesco and pissed myself laughing at the mere idea of them selling games. At least when I was younger, Asda used to have the fabled glass cabinets that keep the human world from being contaminated by polygons. How dare you show my son such unholy things! Lady, this is Pikmin 3. That's a very fair assessment. If you ever wanted to buy a game, you had to find an employee and ask them to get it out for you. And it's just, who wants to go through that for Imagine Champion Rider? Well, somebody's got an exciting weekend planned. Generally, consoles and stuff like Ring Fit Adventure are still kept in cabinets behind the tech counter, but now the games all have display cases, which is better, but still not good. But for me personally, I don't want to buy 1-2 Switch and cereal from the same place. So let's talk about shops whose entire business model is selling Rabbids Land. That seems sustainable. When I was a kid, my go-to game shop was always Granger Games, which was pretty much the main place to buy games in the north of England. I'm sorry, Southerners. But look at this place, man! How could any kid not fall in love with it? With its orange exterior and wacky fonts, and it was fucking terrible and went bankrupt in 2018. Looking back on it, this place was less than ideal. As far as I remember, they sold games from a fair number of consoles, but they naturally put a really big focus on the current generation at the time, which for me was the Wii and DS generation. They sold both new and pre-owned games, and the only game I remember buying new from here was Pokemon Black. I definitely made the most out of that purchase. I have a couple of games I remember buying pre-owned from there though, such as Super Paper Mario. Thanks. The pre-owned games they sold never had the manuals, which, granted, may not be their fault entirely, but it seems unlikely that none of the people selling their games to them bothered to keep a hold of the manuals. Another issue I have with them looking back is that we don't do that here. They seem to sell a lot of North American games, which is fine for a console like the DS, which was region-free, but for stuff like Nintendo's home consoles, man, some kid's gonna be f***ed up for life because of this. Now, how do I know this came from Granger Games? Because it's branded like cattle. I can look back at Granger Games from a modern perspective and easily pick out its abundance of flaws, but as a kid, they never mattered to me. Granger Games was the first shop that catered exactly, specifically to my tastes, and it showed me that gaming wasn't just this weird thing I did alone after school. It was something that united loads of people all over the world. Literally! But when it fell on hard financial times in the beginning of 2018, Granger Games ended up closing its doors forever. And even all of these years later, I still don't think I've recovered from this loss. It wasn't a perfect game shop, but it was always my absolute favorite. So, where was I gonna go from there? Well, provided I'm okay with getting rid of Granger and plurals, I did have option game. I wonder what they sell. This was, and still is, the biggest game retailer in the UK. This isn't a northern epidemic, this shit's countrywide. I'm sorry, Southerners. This place is fine. In terms of modern games and systems, it's got pretty much everything you could ask for. Games, both new and pre-owned, consoles, accessories, pre-orders, but nowadays it seems to be straying further and further away from, well, games. They sell a lot of plushes and figures based on some iconic franchises, but then they also have a wall of unrelated pop figures and a shelf of Barbie dolls. Like, why? I do really appreciate their effort to push board games and card games in store recently, but when they're sat right next to Nerf guns, it feels pretty odd. But hey, other than some bizarre choices they've made, I like Game. It's simple, it's to the point, and I've never had a bad experience shopping there. When I was visiting a standalone store, around 2019 or so, games started to pop up in Sports Direct, a retailer dedicated to the folks who like weightlifting and FIFA. In some places, these mini games inside of Sports Direct outright replaced some standalone stores, which baffles me. Pick any two demographics that have less in common than gamers and fitness fanatics. Okay, fine. But this is still up there. Oh, you know what I should buy alongside Injustice on the Wii U? Dumbbells! Because I'm just not strong enough to carry all of this dog shit! But one issue that all of the shops I've mentioned so far have in common is their lack of retro games. You can't put Wario World next to Mafia 3! That's just unholy! Watch us. CEX, or sex, as their official adverts claim it's pronounced. You can't try and lure in gamers with something they'll never experience. This place is like a heroin addiction. It's not good for me, I don't particularly like it, but I need it. CEX is the only big chain in the UK that sells games for literally every console. From the PS5 all the way back to the Atari 2600, CEX has you covered. But only kind of. CEX has locations all over the UK, and pretty much all of their stock is provided by people who sell their games to them, also known as sinners. That means that no one branch you visit will have the same selection of games as another, which makes each visit really exciting. You might find stuff on par with Ninja Breadman, but you could also find 4 copies of Mario Party 3, one of the priciest N64 games. That's not suspicious. There's a certain magic that comes with walking into a CEX, and just gawking at their selection. Seeing all of these NES, Game Boy, N64 games all proudly displayed here is really something special. And that magic wears off as soon as you want to buy something. God, I can't wait to buy this. F my life! CEX annoys the piss out of me. So, they sell games from every generation. Cool, that's exactly what I want them to do. But the condition of the games is where things get iffy. Price-wise, CEX tend to charge around the going value. And hell, there have been times where I've compared prices with eBay, and CEX ended up being the cheaper route. And while, yes, nobody should get away with charging nearly £160 for Paper Mario, at least they aren't charging significantly more than what other places are. For games that came in cardboard boxes, like N64, SNES games and the like, they come in 3 tiers. Unboxed, which is just the cartridge, boxed, which includes the outer packaging in whatever condition it arrived in, and mint, which includes everything in pristine condition. This in itself is fine, especially with boxed and mint. With boxed, the outer cardboard is generally in an appropriate condition relative to its cheaper price, but with unboxed, good God, these cartridges can be absolutely abused. And you'd be paying the same price for a card in that condition compared to a near mint cartridge that just so happens to not include the box. And that's just egregious! The same can be said for games that come in plastic cases. The boxes, discs, cartridges can all be in appalling condition and cost exactly the same as another copy that's immaculate. Selling games in this condition? Fine! I would at least prefer that they put any effort at all towards cleaning them, but fine. But sell them at a lower price, man! That way, people who don't care about displaying these games and making sure they look all nice and fuckable don't have to pay as much to just experience a game. But even if you buy a pristine, immaculate copy of a game from CEX, it's probably not gonna stay that way for long, because you have to deal with the fucking stickers. I don't know what sort of industrial grade glue they're using, but these are some of the bitchiest stickers known to man. These things do not come off, and even when they do, they leave the cases looking like this. Nobody wants this. And if you're buying a game with cardboard, guess where they put the sticker? The thing that you're giving them more money to own is completely ruined by the way they decide to denote the price. And in some cases, the bitchiest sticker is this big round one that talks about, oh, make sure you recycle your games. I'd love to, but you f***ed them up beyond salvation. Look, I love CEX. I'll forever appreciate having a local, reliable place to buy any and all of the games I'm looking for, but some of their practices need to change. Another example, if you'd rather have the convenience of buying games online, that's a service they offer, but they charge nearly £2 for postage per individual item, which is ludicrous. But because they're the only place in the UK that sells games to the extent that they do, they get away with it. I'm not gonna stop buying from them or anything, and yeah, I always have the option of eBay, but for physical game shops, these guys are the most prominent. But not all hope is lost. Yes, CEX are the biggest physical game retailer in the UK, but that doesn't mean they're the only option. There are alternatives. You just have to know where to find them. I personally think that independently run game shops are your best option for buying games from older consoles. They almost always have a better selection of games in better condition and with better prices, but these guys aren't everywhere. Off the top of my head, I can think of maybe 4 independent game shops that offer anything decent. And even then, they're a couple of hours away by car. This is my favorite one that I discovered a couple of years ago. And just look at the sheer quantity and variety of stuff they have on offer here. Hundreds and hundreds of games in really nice condition, and when they aren't in very good condition, they lower the price of them. My diseased copy of Super Mario Land was all they had in stock, so the manager offered me a 50% discount on it. I didn't ask him to do that, he just saw the condition of the game and decided he didn't feel right selling it for the listed price. That's the kind of customer service that these places offer. And yeah, they do put price stickers on cardboard, but they're tiny and come off a lot easier than the ones that CEX use. This is the single best game shop I've ever visited, and there are others like it. But if we want places like this to be an accessible alternative to the big chains, we need to start supporting them. Time and time again, I visited small independent game shops while visiting a different part of the country or something, only for them to have closed down the next time I'm there. It's genuinely upsetting, because the shopping experience is so much better here, but due to their sheer size and reach, the big chains almost always snuff them out. So, if there's an independent game shop near you that you feel offers really good shopping experiences, you cherish that. You visit it as much as you can. You buy all the shovelware shit they offer and don't think twice about it. Because tell me, who wants financial stability when you can have Imagine Champion Rider? At the end of the day, there's no such thing as a perfect game shop, especially in the UK. Game focuses too much on pop culture merchandise. CEX has some baffling practices, and independent shops are inaccessible and decreasing in number. They're all flawed. But I adore each and every one of them. They all offer a unique and fun experience, even if you don't end up walking out with anything. Just being able to browse hundreds of games from all kinds of different systems it's fun in its own right. Game shops prove that video games as a medium are important enough to have a consistent physical presence, and they show kids all over the world that gaming really isn't this weird niche like I once thought it was. And when it comes down to it, no matter which shop you choose, they all have the only thing that matters: video games and a place to buy them. So while they all have their issues, I love game shops. After all, they are the only reason that I own Mario is Missing. I hate game shops.